Hi everyone, it's Wellness Wednesday. I am at my desk in the afternoon and I'm going to make this a quick stream because usually on Wellness Wednesday I talk about food from the kitchen or the dining room table. But today I am in my office and I was actually looking at gowns and houses and all the fun things that I tend to look at and curate an aesthetic for. And I am also going to have this video focused on women and wellness because, excuse me, this is one of those days when I am experiencing my monthly cycle, and I'm grateful that I am at home. And I think back to all the times where I experienced my cycle while having to be out in the world, and any woman can attest to how uncomfortable that feeling is. And so without going into graphic detail, like being able to be at home and having my tea, so I had my raspberry leaf tea today. I also had some chamomile and lavender tea just to help with like easing myself through the day, because it's like I really just internally I'm like laying down and I'm sleeping. However, I make a habit to stay out of my bedroom and out of my bed in particular once I wake up, like make the bed, and then I go in my bedroom throughout the day, but I don't get back in the bed until I'm going to sleep or having a nap. And again, just trying to be productive, whether it's around the house or whether it's something for like work or creating a business and empire. So I am currently on Net-a-Porter, which is a site that I really love creating aesthetics with. I would show you, but I don't want anybody biting my style. I'm starting to get really selfish when it comes to some of the gems that I give, because I realize for most of the time that I've leveraged social media and being on the internet, I'm always giving gems, always. And so many people benefit from it. And I am in an era where it's like I want to keep some things for myself. So I shared a site with you, but that doesn't mean I need to show you all the gowns that I think are pretty, because again, whether it comes to fruition or not, it's not the point, but I'm putting together my mood board. And I wanted to tell you all about just with one of the mood boards that I make. So whether it's for the brand, when I was in school, in fashion school, we would make mood boards for each seasonal collection that we were doing. When I started doing production on a children's wear line that we didn't bring to full market, we got it through samples and things like that, but then we just paused because capital is always a concern when you start to do that. So by the time we were talking to manufacturing partners, both in Asia and domestically, it looked like it was going to cost us about $50,000 a season. And so we kind of tabled it, and again, just with everything, I don't feel like anything is fully dead until you decide it is. So there are a lot of like projects and initiatives that I've worked on that I've tabled and gone and had to do something else, because again, just because it's an idea and you can get it through to different phases doesn't necessarily mean that the project itself will actually go to market. And even as a project manager, like when there was a point in my career where it's like I felt like going in-house with other companies, I would somehow gain and learn something that I didn't know by like being my own CEO or being a contractor or a freelancer. And sometimes you get in there, you'll go in-house and you like the stability of it, but you realize that they don't always know everything either. Everything has its trade-offs and its pros and cons. And so I've learned to since be a little bit more discriminate about a lot of things, because again, I've been on projects that were funded at a company, and then we get word from leadership to pivot and turn to something else. And so again, priorities change at a moment's notice. So I've had to learn how to get over, we've been working on this thing. You know, we were almost there, Okay, now we're being asked to turn our focus and attention to something else. There are trade-off costs, there are, you know, switching costs, there are all sorts of things that you have to learn how to pivot and move with. So I say all that to say, back to what I was talking about as far as wellness and being at home. This is one of those days where it's like I'm really grateful that I am at home, because I have like my heating pad in my bedroom. I'm having another cup of tea. This is just my mate. And, you know, like I said, I've had my raspberry leaf tea to help with the cramps. And I'm cozy. I have a space heater on. Like, it's just a cold autumn day outside. And I'm really, really grateful to be inside and warm and cozy. Where it's like I don't have to necessarily be around a lot of people. So it's like I don't have to be strong and like put on a game face. Like I can just truly just be myself. And putting together my board. One of the sites that I use for real estate, where I look at just different listings in different regions. Like I said, I'm at a place in my life where I realize that you can either buy the thing to make your life convenient, or you can be in a place where that thing is already built in. So for instance, when you start developing your aesthetics and your affinity for a great life, you'll be like, oh, you know, I went to this spa, I like this treatment. Okay, I'm a member at this gym, we have a dry sauna and a wet sauna, and they also have an indoor swimming pool. And you'll be like, ooh, but what if I could have that without having to be around all these people, all these strangers, right? And then you start to say, okay, well, guess what? There are lots of apartment buildings that have indoor swimming pools. There are some houses that have indoor swimming pools and outdoor swimming pools and dry saunas and wet saunas. But again, it depends on your price point. Some people, if they use their existing lifestyle, their existing career as a gauge of what they can afford, being realistic, this is one of those exercises in like just imagining what is possible, expanding your awareness and seeing that, oh wow, there are actually houses that have this, or I could actually hire a contractor to do this in this residence that I live in, and you could achieve that goal right then and there in your house. And that's why I say like having capital, and then also having people who have awareness of how to get things done is helpful, because sometimes it allows you to have an imagination of where you already are or where you can go. There are some people who are already in the market for homes. There are some people who are not. Again, for me, I like to look at them to see different price points of, okay, from $3 million and up. The team that designed this house, what were the features that they built into that house? Like, what do they think will sell? And oftentimes I'll keep like a wish list of houses that of course have a chef's kitchen, may have an outdoor kitchen, may have a beverage fridge, may even also have like a at-home gym where they have staged it so you can imagine what this place could look like for your own home, or if it was your home and you're like, wow, that's really cool. Who knew that they could do that? So for instance, I tend to look at real estate around the world just because, again, you can get work visas. If you're a business owner and you're setting up shop, like you can be incentivized to go into a different country if you're a tax-paying business, right? Because you're going to create wages and you're going to create tax revenue for the country that you're going to. You get to have a lot of freedoms if you are an entrepreneur, but that's if you are making enough money in your services, your products, etc. are in demand. So again, when I look at houses across the country, different price points, everything down to like what I could readily afford now, to see again what are the selling features, how were the photos used even on the listing, what is the feature image that they're using, because again all of that plays into creating a story about like why someone would actually want to come there, why someone would actually want to call the listing agent and say I want to tour the house, why someone would be qualified for that house. And that's just from how they've presented it online. So again, when I talk about like marketing and advertising, branding, and how all that stuff matters, you'll understand that selling is innately baked into a lot of what we do. We just haven't been taught to look at it that way. And so, again, like for me, I am very practical in a lot of ways. I love sensible design, but I also appreciate the whim and the whimsy, right? And I think something like, I'll tell my family about it all the time, like, because we've been looking at real estate since we were younger. On the weekends, my sister and I would go to open houses with my mom and my aunt, who have both worked in real estate. And then again, I mentioned to you, my grandmother was a real estate agent once upon a time as like her secondary career. And so I didn't appreciate it until I got older that like, we would just go and just imagine like, oh girls, imagine if this was your room or this, just have always been in the market of looking at homes and creating those sorts of stories. So again, from Santa Barbara, California, all the way to England, I look at properties to see, again, indoor, outdoor living. What's the landscape look like? Like how old do the trees look that are in the front of the house? What does the front facade look like, right? Like what color is the door? Because again, as you are becoming a homeowner, there are lots of things that you'll have to take care of. Like everything about that home you're going to be responsible for, right? A brick falls off the facade. You have to either replace it or hire someone to replace it, right? Something happens and the window cracks. You're going to have to call somebody, a glass maker, to replace the glass. And if it's a custom design, and again, depending on who the builder was, if how old the house is, it may be under warranty, may not be. There's so many specifications of like maintaining a house that you take ownership of when you become a homeowner. And so I like looking at certain things to see, okay, what does this look like? What did they do, etc. Because again, even with our home, we still have stuff that we tend to on a daily basis, and then specialty services that we have to get support with repairing. But your home is your dwelling place, and so when you are looking at your wellness, things of that nature, all of that comes into play. I mentioned being on my cycle because it's like it's gloomy outside, it's cold. I'm in the house, I have this light on, right? I also have like a salt lamp on, have my heater on. Those things are helping, but I can also still feel like the sadness of like the weather's changed completely, and I do well in warm climates. I do well when it's sunny. However, I still do love and appreciate the 4 seasons that I get to experience in the region that I'm in. But I'm just at that age now where it's like I realize that you can actually go to a different location if you want to. You're just going to have to be willing to pay those type of prices to be in that area. So what does that look like even for you as a business owner? Even if you were going to be a full-time employee of some firm, what type of wage would you need to have to be able to sustain the type of life that you want? All of those things come into question. A lot of things, as long as you're alive, come back to money. And as you talk about just elevating yourself, whether it's professional development, personal development, all of these things play into it, right? Like piecemealing your life together. Of course, you can do that. Most of us do that without even thinking. And then for a lot of us, we eventually get to a place where we say, F this stuff, and we kind of blow up what was our old life. And then we slowly build things to our liking, brick by brick. Whichever way you do it, it's up to you. But one of the things that I love when I look at kitchens now is I love the kitchens that have the flush paneling all throughout the kitchen so that you can't even tell like where the refrigerator is, right? Usually when you're looking at homes in the lower price points, you don't see that. You see just your regular stock grade refrigerator, stove, etc. But I really love how clean the aesthetic is for gourmet kitchens that have the flush paneling of the cabinets, of the refrigerator and the freezer. You'll still have, your gourmet chef stove or chef range, and you may have a water spigot so that you can actually just have your big pots there. You don't have to take it to the stove. All those little gadgets and finishes are things that I pay attention to, right? When I look at how I've accumulated, let's say, cookbooks over the years, now I look at the spacing and the storage of the kitchen, right? Do they have drawers? Do they have a built-in bookshelf for the kitchen? Is the china cabinet built into that space, right? Is there an island built into it? All of those little features are things that I look at in the kitchen, because again, if you look at your life and what you accumulate, what's a part of your routine, and even what's easy for you to grab and utilize in your flow, there are some people who are maximalists, there are some people who are minimalists. Wherever you are, you can't look to influencers or even celebrities to necessitate or dictate that, right? Like I shared something on my page a few weeks ago about a content creator who, ironically, her and her husband are in like the science space, so it makes sense, like they're researchers, but she spends close to $300,000 to stay young. Everybody's different, right? For me, I use a lot of like health food and herbs and exercise and fresh air and tools from like Asia to help with flushing my lymphatic drainage and, you know, just keeping me zen. There's a lot of different ways that you can accomplish your goal, but you kind of have to take yourself through that routine, and then you decide what stays, what goes, what works, what doesn't. We use a lot of glass in our kitchen, so everything from fresh pressed juices go in glass containers. We use as minimal plastic as possible. I think the only plastic that we really keep now are like some of the other meal prep containers that we have of various sizes, also some of like the sauce containers and dispensers that we have, those things. But for mostly everything, we use mason jars, glass jars for our juices, our smoothies, just drinking water. We don't really drink a lot of soda, so we don't really keep that stuff in the house. We have veggie juices and fruit juices, and again, we've adjusted how we eat from like where we were 7-10 years ago, what our fridge looked like then versus what it looks like now. Like we still do keep some snacks in the house, because again, every once in a while you're going to want that crunch, you're going to want that salty taste, that thing from your childhood or whatever that you remember that gave you a sense of delight. You're going to still want that. So try not to be so gung-ho on, oh no, you can't have this, you can't have that. It's like, no, everything in moderation. So another thing is like just with, again, the wellness lifestyle. There are a lot of tinctures that as you, again, talk to more herbalists, you go to your local grocery store or your local market, and you start to see that there are a lot more herbal blends of teas that are readily available. You can go into a regular grocery store, go to the tea aisle, and find teas that help you sleep better, that help you with cold, that have elderberry and other herbs in there to help you get through like seasonal allergies, seasonal colds, etc. Cramps, like I said, for nursing mothers, they have teas on the market that help you with nursing and milk production. And so you can see how it's becoming a little bit more mainstream for herbs to be reincorporated back into our wellness. And that's also why on one of the previous videos I talked about like the herbs that are already in your medicine cabinet. I talked about the Whole Foods Encyclopedia being a good book for you to keep in your house, because again, there are lots of vitamins and minerals in the fruits and vegetables that are available in our market. Now, whether or not they're in season, depending on where you live, that's a completely different subject. Most larger grocery stores and even some of the like mid-sized markets, they are having produce available year-round, but technically what is best for your digestive system is to eat the fruits and vegetables that are in season in the region that you were birthed in. So again, when you start talking about digestive issues, bloating, there are all these sorts of irritations that can happen by the food that you're eating that can inform like why you're not having or why you're bloated around the waistline, right? Because sometimes you see it, you're like, you eat a well-balanced diet, but you're having stubborn weight that's not going away from your midsection area. It can be inflammation. It can just be waste that needs to come out. You actually do need to get into a doctor so that you can get a stool test, get some panels done to figure out what's going on with your body. Just talking to someone on the internet is not always a good idea. Like you need science. We have science, let's use it, see what makes sense. But again, after you are doing that and you get yourself to a manageable level, you can even, again, some people water fast, some people juice fast, some people, you can do elimination diets. There are all these different ways that you can go about determining what works best for your body. But the best rule of thumb that I have learned about is, again, going back to the diet that is most representative of the people you have come through. I would say it's the best way to say it, the family you were birthed into, right? So for instance, my family's Caribbean and Black. What foods were we eating? You know, going with that. I also think that's why even though I enjoy the 4 seasons, I know that I do well in tropical climates because it's like your people are from the sun and near the water and nature. That's why I love being out there. But again, we, as a migratory species, we have found shelter in all different places. And so we are trying to replicate that safety, that stability of home wherever we go. We have access to all sorts of technologies and tools that make that possible. Let's use it to our advantage. Herbs and spices are great. Fruits and vegetables are great. Of course, clean water, fresh air are also great. And again, your kitchen is one of the best places that you can actually leverage in achieving your wellness goals. Like I said, mostly everything can be bought down to, you know, me, myself, I'm looking at, the next purchase I'm looking at is like a red lamp light for the house where like I can lay under it and absorb the red light into my body. Because again, I've done a lot of different modalities, even with the lymphatic drainage of me just doing the gua sha on my neck yesterday. I noticed when I woke up today, it's down. So there are real accessible things that you can use, but you have to learn and you have to like really be in tune with your body and understand how it works for you. Like how the things that you're actually attempting to use work for you. Steams are good. I've done the neti pot as far as draining my sinus, clearing out my sinuses and stuff. That kind of made me a little uncomfortable. I still have it, but haven't used it in years. But the idea of clearing out your nasal passages with saline water, you know, it was uncomfortable, but it worked. So I've tried that. I've also, as a woman, like I said, this will probably be for the women. I've done the Diva Cup and did not have great success with that. So I try to stay as natural as possible, meaning that use organic cotton sanitation napkins. I have done period panties. I think they are a nice idea in theory. But for me, again, learning yourself, learning your body and what is actually coming out and stuff like that, like to each their own. But I've really enjoyed being able to try some of the things out again, just to get comfortable with myself, right? Like, because again, from the time you start menstruating and you're introduced to, hey, this is going to be with you for most of your life until you reach menopause, and you're going to bleed every month unless you're pregnant. And actually, even if you are pregnant, some women still experience bleeding. And so it's like, oh, so I'm going to be bleeding from there. Okay. And so that's also just a whole other thing where it's like you're insecure about it, especially in elementary school. Like I just remember there's a lot of trauma that can be held onto from just being a menstruating woman and girl. And again, society kind of shames you for it, right? Tells you to just put perfume on it, or to stick a tampon up there, things of that nature. And then I remember always being afraid to use tampons, and when I did, I would be mindful at the time because I remember reading on the box about toxic shock syndrome and being like, I never want to have that happen to me, so let me make sure that, I take it out in enough time. But again, just as you develop over time, it's like now I don't use tampons unless I just so happen to be experiencing my cycle while I'm on vacation and I want to be in the water. That's the only time I'll wear a tampon now. Otherwise, I just allow myself, and especially now that I'm home, it's like I give myself so much grace where it's like I can shower when I want to, I can just move through the process as I want to, because again, you become super in tune with your body when you're on your cycle. All sorts of things happen, and it's like to be in a safe space experiencing that is a real beautiful experience, right? After and before my period, I do participate in like vaginal steams where it's like it's just me with some calming meditative music and my gentle herbs, and I'm there steaming and I'm just giving great energy to myself, and like again just helping my body, because again we were never taught so many rites and rituals that help us as women. And again, just from me changing my lifestyle, I've noticed how the quality of how I experience my cycle has changed. So I'll give you a perfect example. PMS is usually, or used to be, such hell for me. Cramps used to be a nightmare. Now it's like I even forget that I'm coming on like every month it's almost like a surprise that I'm coming on my period. I'm like, oh, there you are. Oh, hello. No cramps. Or I should say very little cramps. No real PMS signs, right? And yeah, I don't keep track of it anymore. I used to use one of those mobile apps, and I've actually been really excited to talk to you guys about this. I went on Etsy and I won't show you my actual cycle, but I got this period tracker. I bought a few of them. Let me see if you can see it. So I got these period trackers because, again, as someone who has worked in and around tech and big tech, I'm not comfortable with companies having that information about me anymore, and especially in the current administration that we're in, where there's just so much to be concerned about when it comes to reproductive health. I'd rather keep that for myself. So I was able to get period trackers from Etsy, and so for the year, and it's for a whole calendar year. So I'll show you again. You'll see it goes January to December, and so you'll get to see what your body is doing after the year, right? I've had a period every month, and so again, with even looking at how my body is releasing the eggs every month, it is creating a beautiful picture of me. And again, learning oneself. Like I said, I try to nourish myself. I do tend to eat beef and steak around my period. And again, I just try to make sure that my menses is like red, right? So I, again, try to make sure I'm eating all my vitamins and minerals throughout the week, throughout the months, throughout the years. And I'm giving my body lots of good supplements to give it the enzymes, the minerals, and all the building blocks of nutrition that my body actually needs to operate efficiently. And that's the basis of, in my opinion, a well-lived life, right? Got enough rest, enough water, you're eating a well-balanced diet, and you're supplementing however you need to, and you're moving. I did work out the first day of my cycle and the second day, and I got through it. Yesterday I was moving so slow, but I got through it. And even that, right? Like just knowing that the energy that I have is diminished when I'm on my cycle. It's like, again, you are going out into a world that is expecting full throttle of you at 100%. How, patriarchy just defines 100%. But it's like physically you don't have that to give. And so it just, in a lot of ways for me, now that I am able to reflect back on it, it's like a lot of the ways of living felt really brutal to me as a woman who is aware of like my body and my place in the world, if you will. So again, this is just one of those videos just talking about overall wellness. I'll have my tea and continue looking at beautiful homes where, again, it's solving for a lot of things, right? Just the final touches of simplicity, right? How much storage are we going to need? Is this particular house has a fully retractable door that allows you to have like this seamless indoor outdoor living experience, right? And it has just a flush patio flooring before it opens up to grass, a grassy area. It's like beautiful. It looks like it'd be a fun time for entertaining. It also, this particular house also has a caterer's kitchen, meaning that it is built to actually hire people to come in and help with hosting and entertaining. Great. If you're having private dinners and fundraisings at your home, this may actually be a great home for you to do so because it's built into it. And you'd be surprised what you can do in this particular house that I'm looking at. I'm not going to tell you where because, like I said, I tend to fall in love with some of these houses. And I'm like, yes, as soon as I get my next book deal or my next deal, whatever, I'm going to get me a nice, beautiful house. And so I'll put it on my wish list. And then I'll get a notification that the home is no longer available. And I'll be really in my feelings about it. It happened to me yesterday. A house that I really, really loved. And it's gone now. Oh. With that being said, like even that is like an impetus for me to like get serious and be dedicated to like what the next moves are going to be, because it's like now I'm seeing stuff that I actually really enjoy and could actually envision myself being in, because it's hitting a lot of the marks that I have, right? Like, so even this house that I just mentioned with the caterer's kitchen, it's like they have a little area. It's like, oh, you can do outdoor yoga there, right? You could do this, you could do that. It has enough space where you could put your art studio there. I look at all of that. Looks like it's water on the property. Looks like it has some wildlife on the property. I see some chickens, some roosters. This is somewhere in the country. But yeah, like I look at a multitude of things and encourage others to do it, because it's nice to imagine. You know, I think for a lot of us, again, we are seeing the need to separate your living from your career, because those jobs are dropping like flies, right? We're seeing so many jobs being slashed, and regardless of where you're working, you're still going to have to live. You're still going to have a life. You're still going to have a place called home. So how we provide for ourselves, a lot of us are being called to question that, right? What is it tied to? How can you make money outside of just having, you know, your 2-week salary, where those are no longer guaranteed. I shared a video a few months ago about 2 guys, general contractors, who built a house from scratch in 7 days. Obviously, they are professionals. Obviously, they know how to get their permits and their licensing. They also know how to actually build a house. That's why they were able to do it, right? But they posted the whole process. It's like a 3-hour video. They posted the whole process on YouTube. So those of you who are interested in knowing what it looks like, you can see it. And so bit by bit, they built it while on camera. It was fascinating for me to watch because, again, been looking at real estate from the time that I was a kid. So to actually see it done in that way, again, it helps you to understand the process of every layer that comes into the final product. You can build and design your own home, right? Of course, you have to get certain things approved by the area that you're living in. So legally, you know, there are things you have to be mindful for. So there's still a timeline, there's still money, there's still costs, there's still correspondence that have to be written up and responded to, etc. There's still fees to pay. Whether you're gonna be tapping into the utility companies, or if you're, like I said, this particular house is like out in the woods somewhere, so I didn't even read to see like how they're getting their water and their utilities, or if they're just self-sustained. But all of those things go into play. So it looks like this one is still on the municipality's utilities. But yeah, this one is a nice little find. I'm not, like I said, I'm not gonna tell you where it is because it's really beautiful and it's on a lake, and it made me happy to find it, and it's relatively affordable. And even that is relative, right? But it's affordable for the area that it's in. So again, just thinking about that, where it's like, as a professional, one, are you upskilled to current market, right? Two, can you and should you be asking for more money? The answer is always yes, right? Always yes. Everything else is going up. You need more money. You're always going to need more money. Three, like, just if you're going to be there for 5 to 10 years, does this house meet most of your needs? And this is just from looking at it. This isn't even reaching out to the agent and actually going to tour it, because who you were partnered up with also matters, right? You're going to have to do an inspection before you even put an offer on. I look at all of that. But again, when I talk about the whim and the whimsy, it's like I'm looking at how the house is sold, like what like I said, the selling features, what are they showing me, right? Like, can I imagine myself waking up to this view in the morning, right? Like, so with looking at waterfront properties. Now, because I know that technically if there's some sort of natural disaster where the water levels rise, you're not going to want to be front side like that, right? Because you're going to experience flooding and damage to your property. So that is something that I always think about, where it's like, okay, you're going to need flood insurance, but is this really a good investment? And then you see the view and you're like, yeah, I can really imagine waking up to that. Is it worth it? Oh yeah, it probably is definitely worth it. Other people may not agree. So you gotta understand your own risk tolerance. But this particular house that I'm looking at, it has an older kitchen. So it's like, even with looking at the price point that it's offered at, it's at 2.3 million in Annapolis. And okay, you're gonna have to put money aside for the kitchen if you wanted this property, but the views that you get from majority of the rooms in the house and the natural light that comes in, it's absolutely worth envisioning your life there. Like I said, the kitchen itself would be a full gut. This looks like the kitchen has never been redone since like the 60s, but the house itself is gorgeous, and some of the other renovations that they've done have brought it up to market. And then it's a nice little stately looking house. The exterior looks like some damage, but again, salt water, you're gonna have some erosion, but it looks like it has access to a private beach. And again, when you start thinking about your quality of life, what are you gonna go after, right? You're gonna want to enjoy whatever place you're going to spend the majority of your time in, and where you're going to raise your family, where you're going to host your family, where you're going to make memories. And so, again, like I said, the kitchen itself, for this particular unit that I'm looking at, the kitchen isn't a selling feature, the exterior is. The kitchen would have to be redone. But that matters. Like I said, all the finishes that I talked about from other houses, you can kind of tell, like if you're going to work with a design team, you could talk to them about what you wanted to do, and they could also even make recommendations based on what the houses in the other vicinity feature, because I noticed that as well. Like, a lot of people will look at the comps of neighboring properties to just make sure that you're not going too much above what they're offering, but that again, you're still within range of like what is desirable, what is on trend for this region, and what are other buyers likely to want. And I think that's something that kind of got me stuck with the house that we live in, is that we were always made aware of the fact that we shouldn't do too much to put it over the comps in the area. So we kind of just were like, all right, well, whatever, we'll keep it as much as it is as possible, right? We would get quotes on certain things, certain projects to do, but ultimately, like, it was never really, we spent more time working and traveling than we did entertaining, even when we did entertain. You know, it was like, if anything, most of the renovations that we do to the house are for aesthetic, not because it's actually needed. And that also was something that came to mind, where it's like, there's literally nothing wrong with, okay, just because you don't like the color of the marble, you would like demolish all of this just because you didn't like the color of it? That doesn't make sense. Again, to each their own. But when I started thinking about holistic wellness and sustainability and stuff like that, it's like, sure, we can take this out and actually donate it or resell it to a local area that is known as a retrofitter, if you will, and so somebody else can benefit from it. But we would have to be very intentional about doing that. You know, like, the mindset of a lot of people is just really wasteful. And so again, when you start talking about modifications to a perfectly well-oiled house, it's perfectly fine. Sure, you can change the paint colors, right? So like, this used to be a children's room. So when we toured this house, this was the daughter's room, so it was pink. It used to be an office that we shared, so we decided on the color yellow, and we both had our desks in here, and then we had a guest room. And then during the pandemic, we decided to have separate offices. So this became just my office / my salon / spa, and he has his office, and he's now, like, you know, he's ready to redo his office because he wants to make it look how he wants it to look. And then for me, like I said, I do my jam in here. I have my hair stuff, I have my spa stuff, I have my work stuff. Like, it's more than enough space for me. I have my art stuff, I have lots of books, lots of notebooks, etc. Like, it works. And again, even with this, like, this wasn't the original setup. I used to have my desk set up where I was seated in between two pillars of bookcases. But again, just over time, my interests, things have changed. How I utilize this space now, I'm not ever really on camera except for when I'm filming these videos. And so it absolutely works for me. And so I get to sit in my little cozy office, do a little bit of computer work, because like I said, I love being outside in nature. If I don't have to be behind a desk for 8 hours, I don't want to be. So I try to move as much as possible. I'll go to the gym, I'll work out a little bit later on, probably have to go into the stores at some point this week to grocery shop. But other than that, it's like, take care of my plants, take care of myself, take care of my people, all is well. But again, it's because it's a well-oiled machine. It's because we've put a lot of systems in place to help us live the life that actually helps us be of service to ourselves and others. But yeah, just wanted to talk to you a little bit about wellness. You can find so many little cutesy, kitschy things that you can buy off the shelf to help organize your teas, I do have that. Um, Also, the little containers that hold this and hold that, and it's like after a while, I was like, I'm buying containers to house containers to house containers. So it's like those little Russian nesting dolls, right? Like that's literally what our life has become. That's what consumerism has become. So I'm trying to again just keep a light and refreshing perspective about all of this stuff, knowing that just because it's on the market doesn't mean I have to buy it or participate in it. But I also realize that I've had a little bit of time of just going ham and shopping in Home Goods and TJ Maxx and Container Store, which I love, by the way. I still love Container Store to this day. I've had a lifetime of looking at all this stuff and how to make it come together. And where I'm at now in my life, I know a lot of the stuff that I want is custom. So for instance, I'll stop with this one last house that I'm looking at. This is another house in Annapolis because I really love Annapolis. I think it's such a wonderful coastal community. And they have a stainless steel backsplash with like a marble crab inlay over the stove, but they also have a built-in bread box, as well as a built-in wine rack. Lots of storage. The island has a bookshelf for books. Again, lots of cabinetry. It's like the medium tone wood oak finish. Looks like those are pewter knobs, so pull knobs. I wonder if they slam close or not. But again, your stainless steel stove and refrigerator. Again, I like this kitchen. It's mostly open. Has a light fixture that hangs from the ceiling. It's like a light bar, but it's nice. The feature, it meets the basic requirements of storage, cooking, sink space. Have I seen better? Absolutely. That's also because I've seen houses that had wine cellars in them. It's all relative, right? So that's also why I said like I try to keep my particular opinion to myself in a lot of ways, because I will regularly look at $27 million houses just for the fun of it. Even if I'm underemployed, I will still look at a $27 million house. And so, again, that's just who I am. I love real estate. I love seeing the crazy and kooky things that people can do for their domestication needs. And some of it is very inspiring. Some of it is over the top. Again, I remember driving up to a $37 million house not too long ago. They're like, can I see it? And they're like, you have to call the listing agent. And I was like, oh, okay. But why not? Right? It's just a house. It's just money. But some of the things I think about is like, who has that type of liquidity? Like, what do these people do to have that type of liquidity to be able to drop 37 or 67 million on a house? I'm like, that is fascinating. And I'm always thinking like, what's the upkeep, right? Like, who's the staff that they're hiring to help them with that house, right? Like, just what are their monthly expenditures? What are their annual expenditures? Like, I'm curious about that, because again, I know that it takes, regardless of how self-made anyone looks, there's always a team, a staff that's helping to support their lifestyle. And so this whole idea of, like, yeah, let's demystify like what it takes to actually be a boss babe, or to be a boss daddy, or a boss dude, right? Like, it's usually a swarm of employees and people who are working to help you literally just be yourself, right? And by allowing you to do that, you pay these fees so that you can just focus on the one thing that you need to do, which is often running your company, delivering your product, or if you are the product, making sure that you're in tip-top shape so that people want to continue paying the money for you. And again, that's how life is. So, that's again why I tend to encourage like focusing on wellness from the food, sleep, gut health perspective, and also mind health, because it's like all this other stuff, it's just a variation of how much money do you have and how much are you willing to spend. Because you can buy pretty much anything. Notice I said pretty much anything. You can't buy everything, you can buy pretty much everything. And yeah, that's it. So I'm going to go down one last rabbit hole, but I'm going to cut the video here because we're at 50 minutes. I'm going to look at a $1.9 million unit in Honolulu, because Hawaii is just beautiful. So this particular, looks like it has, it's right on the water. So it's a condo. The bedroom's not that big, but you're not too far from Diamond Head, which is a huge selling feature for this particular unit, I think. Yeah, right at Diamond Head, Oceanside. But it's stunning. As soon as I can get back to Honolulu, it will be a moment too soon. I really love it there. Ironically, I had no interest of going to Hawaii. Didn't care. Like, it was so beautiful. I was like, I don't care. I don't want to go. Not interested. I went there and I was like, holy crap. Mind blown. So that's one of those things that I won't live down with my family probably ever. They're like, and you didn't even want to go, and now look at you. You love it there. And I'm like, I know. But this this particular unit looks like they have it set up with a computer monitor, etc. So it looks like whoever is the existing owner of this unit does work from here. The bathroom is a little outdated, but they have surfboard storage on the unit. Yeah, it looks like the coral reef is right here at the water access way. So I don't think this part of the ocean is swimmable. You'll probably have to go to a different part, but you're right there in the water if you just want to look at the water. And yeah, the kitchen, let me see. Okay, the kitchen is kind of just bland. You have your faucet, your drawers, your stove. It looks like it's a electric stove, and your microwave. Nothing to write home about, but it's Hawaii, right? And I think, again, that's why I love looking at real estate from the perspective of region, because what's near it, right? It's like your want list changes depending on where you are. So like, I'll look at properties in Europe, I'll look at properties in Hawaii, I'll look at properties in the Caribbean, and again, depending on what my expectation is for that area, we'll decide like, yeah, that's doable for here, right? Like, do I need a marble island with like, what do they call it? The waterfall tile island? No, I don't. It's Hawaii, right? Like, we're probably going to be eating at restaurants. We're probably going to be eating at the food trucks. We may cook breakfast in there a couple of times, but otherwise we're going to be out in the world enjoying Hawaii. It's the little things, you guys. So this is, again, just a little slice of my happiness. Looking at beautiful outfits, looking at beautiful homes, seeing the wellness features that are baked into the homes. Like I said, I've seen properties that have had indoor pools in the residence, and these are actual homes, not necessarily like apartment buildings. I've seen some private residences that have had indoor pools, both in Europe as well as in New York. So again, when I think about like the mindset of the person, I'm like, oh, they're probably an executive of a multinational firm who has offices in Europe and in America, right? Like I said, the commonality of, oh, this has the gas range on the island, right? And then it also has the oven and the microwave and panel on the wall. But it has a unobstructed view of the Pacific Ocean here in Honolulu. again, just jumping from region to region, because again, once you realize, it's like, how are you getting there? How long are you going to spend time there? What matters to you? Do you want to see the oat? Do you want to see the sunset from your soaking tub or from your lanai? You're like, what? Yeah, all you need is a fax machine and the internet. You can work from wherever. What? Then bells start going off for you. So, again, I appreciate having my own little space on YouTube, because the whim and the whimsy of looking at homes and thinking about wellness as a full cycle of life, right? This particular home is showing me their Peloton bike in their office, but the Peloton bike has an unobstructed view of the Pacific Ocean. Who wouldn't want to, like, how could you be mad working from your office with a view of the Pacific Ocean? As soon as your workday is over, you close that laptop, you log off, and you go outside in the ocean. Now the question is, again, that's why I said it's all relative. It's like, what are you actually doing to benefit the community that you're moving into? This particular house in Hawaii, it's a 5-bedroom, 6-bath, listed at $9.8 million. It's a detached home. Like I said, it has some updates by an architectural firm, but they're considering this house a retreat. And from the views of it, it has a infinity pool outside. Again, Pacific Ocean right there, infinity pool right there, outdoor seating area right there. You get to create your life. What type of life are you creating for yourself? Those are the questions that I ask of myself and people that I consider loved ones that I care about, whether they're by blood or by relation. It's like, what are we doing? What are we doing with our time on this planet? Because feasibility, again, it's all relative. You still got to wake up and go either way. You still got to wake up and work either way. But what are you working towards? Like, what do you really want in your life? Like, what makes you happy? Like, we all understand that you got to do what you got to do. So while you're handling the immediate of now, you can still imagine a different outcome for yourself. Like, nothing is set in stone. The only thing that's set in stone is if you keep telling yourself that you can't have different. Because again, the people who lived here, the difference is that they had the means to afford this home. That's the only difference, right? So again, when you start talking about money, I like to normalize having conversations about money in a way that is accessible, because again, money is just money. It's your mindset that matters the most, right? Because again, these people, why would you assume that like these people are smarter than you who were able to afford this house? They were able to afford this house because they had the money, not because they're a brain surgeon or anything like that. Said who? Like, real estate doesn't tell you that, you know? And again, I'm not talking about, oh, are you going to qualify for this home based on the current wage that you're working at? I'm just saying, like, just looking at this house and the fact that they have listed it, so it's a fair market. If you have at least 3 times 9.8 million, you may, and you are willing to be liquid enough to afford this type of home, you could qualify. So what's stopping you from qualifying, right? And then when you say, well, I don't have that type of liquidity, but I could, what service or goods could you provide to help you get that type of liquidity? You know, because again, you look at where the world is now. A lot of what was speculative 10 years from now has either come to pass or it didn't. I know AI just came on the scene a few years ago, and I'm already seeing people talking about it being a bubble. So again, when you talk about real estate, it's like we're always going to need a place to live. We're always going to need clean water to drink. We're always going to need food. I know what I would invest my money in. So, that being said, I'm going to enjoy the rest of my tea and close out my real estate mood boarding for the day. And yeah, go do something else. Okay, bye friends.